Hello everyone and welcome to the PRL LMP2 Le Mans Series. We are at Sebring for round 2 of our season, here in season 4 of 2020 on iRacing, and we are getting set for a bumpy ride today ahead of an hour's worth of action at this racetrack, and you'll see it all live right here on the Global SimRacing Channel. My name is Ryan Jones, and alongside me I have Peter Mackay, and behind the scenes we have Joe Peak. Using the camera is provided by Dougie Beard. Why don't we dive down and take a little bit of a closer look at this track with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Sebring International Raceway. Home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the most grueling tests in endurance racing, this is a track which has earned a fearsome reputation among drivers. The circuit itself is located on the southeastern edge of the city of Sebring, Florida, and was built out of Hendricks Army Airfield shortly after World War II. 3 layouts are currently in use, ranging from 1.7 to 3.7 miles in length. The longest course, which is perhaps the most well known with it being the one used for the famed endurance race, shockingly still contains portions of the original airfield surface. It's this aspect which has become a signature feature of the track, making it extremely bumpy for racing. Sunset Bend in particular nearly shakes cars apart while they attempt to navigate the high-speed 180-degree corner. As you'd expect for the side of an airfield, there's nearly no elevation change over the course of a lap, but many of the curbs are dramatically tall and unforgiving, daring drivers to glance them yet not hit them directly. Thankfully, places to pass are plentiful, including spots like the Hairpin and Cunningham. However, the many fast, sweeping turns creates a dilemma for car setup, since a vehicle that's made too stiff could wind up bottoming out on the onerous bumps. In the end, if you have the wherewithal to withstand the track's rough nature, you're likely to fare well. And since Florida fans almost always show up in huge numbers to witness this test of car and driver, you'll have plenty to impress at this legendary North American road course.
Well, there you go. And Peter, what more do you want to tell us about this place?
Well, Sebring, for many, it is the home of American sports car racing. Since the early 1950s, the very famous 12 Hours of Sebring has been held at this wonderful circuit here in Florida. Well, all the big names have won here. You know, Andretti, Foyt, Gurney, Fangio, Moss, Christensen, and last but not least, Alan McNish. So, it's going to be a real cracker here today with these new LMP2 machines, Ryan.
Yeah, high speed a duel around this place for sure. And as always, today's race is brought to you by Simsa. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individuals, drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at simsa.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. So after round one, Peter, we have a championship table. It is basically how they finished in race one. It is Rodrigo Meets that is fastest by... Well, he was fastest in round one, wasn't he? And he's at the top by 5 points over David Holland. Fuller Munoz back there in third, and then Mauricio Cuero and Karl Modolf in our teams as well. Follows a similar story.
Yes, at the top of the field right now, it's Punto Racing Red with Delta Sport U4K to 7 points in arrears. In third place is Punto Racing Blue, tied with TQ Engineering Green. And in fourth place is Punto Racing Black. So very much a Punto Racing domination right now. It's a shame there's no Fiats here, of course. Although the Dallara is Italian, the Fiat, one of the Fiat's most popular cars, is the Punto. So I wonder, that's probably not where they've got their name from, I would imagine.
I would never want to name my team after a Fiat. So here's the race details for today. We are looking at a 1 hour race after a 15-minute qualifying session. Open setup so they can adjust these cars however they want and drive through at 13 incidents, disqualification at 18. Bonus point as well for fastest lap, pole, and finishing the race with 3 or less incidents in this Dallara P2 17. So let's take a look at qualifying then, Peter. At the moment, it is tight at the top. David Holland has a 300th of a second advantage over Rodrigo Meets.
Yeah, it's going to be close between those two guys today, it would appear. And 34 thousandths of a second around here at Sebring is no time at all. So the Texan, David Holland, looking pretty strong so far. And of course, these new Dallara P217 LMP2 machines are incredibly stiff. A carbon fibre monocoque chassis, and around here at Sebring, it's of course notoriously bumpy. It's often said that winning or even finishing the 12 Hours of Sebring is actually harder than winning or finishing the Le Mans 24 Hours, such as the severity of this circuit, which actually used to host a fleet of Flying Fortress aircraft in the Second World War, and also was a training base for some B-17 bombers as well. So quite a lot of heritage at this track, and particularly with sports car racing. But for these guys today, so the guys that know how to set the cars up, get them nice and compliant to these bumps, are going to be the guys that triumph at the end.
Stephen Varady, you got to bomb it into that last corner, don't you? Sunset Bend, it's called. The line of 1,000 different lines, the corner of 1,000 different lines, I like to call it, because there are certainly more than a few different ways to get through there. That lap from Varady found no improvement on his current fastest, which is a 47.414. He's towing Byron Daly around this racetrack at the moment, just behind him. Here comes David Holland. Holland sitting in second. That gap to the top is now 0.2 of a second, because Nathan Lewis managed to pump in a 45.2, and Holland out of that penultimate corner. Almost grabbed the grass on the left, but I reckon he's not got away with it because he's just backed out of the throttle.
Yeah, it looks like he's just decided to try and get a little bit of clean air, but he'll need to be careful, just not let the brakes and the tyres cool off too much. But he sweeps around Sunset Bend, and he'll go for another qualifying time. Of course, that's the tricky part, isn't it, Ryan? With the group qualifying session, you can always get mired by traffic at any moment. A little bit different than running out there on your own.
Yeah, there's 36 drivers out there as well, which is a fantastic turnout. It does make things a little bit difficult. The drivers will be thankful that this place is, 5.9 kilometers long, which is 3.6 miles. So there is plenty of room to fit 36 race cars around this place. Boing, 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 over the last corner, through the bumps for car 3, 2, 1. And across the line, that's Paulo Munoz. That was not a fast lap for him. That was an out lap. So he's beginning his flying lap now. One of them with 5.5 minutes left to go. This first sector, very tricky, isn't it, Peter?
Oh, definitely, yeah. There's a lot of in the very first part of the lap. There's, of course, you've got the really quick, blind first corner, this very fast fourth gear left-hander in one of these machines, and you're leaning on all of that aerodynamic grip. Then you've got to get hard on the brakes, left, right, and then left again, back through Gurney Bend and down the straight towards the hairpin. It's you're constantly busy at Sebring, and it's an amazing challenge for drivers, particularly in a prototype machine like these. I mean, these incredibly lightweight, only 930 kilograms, but 600 horsepower. So they've got some real squirt to have these Dallara P217s. Interestingly, this car, while in service, it didn't have the most, it's still being used by a few teams, but didn't have the most successful career in period. Certainly eclipsed by the Orica and Ligier chassis, but we're certainly delighted to have it here in the iRacing service.
Well, of course, iRacing's got a pretty good relationship now with Dallara, don't they? We've got the IndyCar categories in here. We've got, of course, obviously the full IndyCar, and obviously the Indy Pro 2000 as well, and now the LMP2, the USF 2000 in the service as well. So quite a few Dallara chassis around in iRacing. As Rube's lap there was a 47.2, 8 tenths away, and you saw him flashing the lights at those cars up the road, maybe a bit too far back for them to notice or give a damn about him flashing those lights, but they will get out of the way. That allows Rube to go by before the hairpin. That was Diori getting out of the way. Here's Nicholas Rubela around the back of the circuit. He's up in 9th place at the moment. He's 7 tenths of a second away from the time set by Nathan Lewis at the front, which is challenged closest by Isa now, a tenth away in second. Really opening yourself up for that ultimate corner. You can drive it all the way out to the left, and this track is relatively flat. There's not much disadvantage to going out there. That's one of the quirks of being a former Air Force base. It is flat as flat can be, with the exception of all the bumps.
Yeah, that is the very big exception, isn't it? But yes, no incline or decline at all, but constant bumping along, and you really see those bumps with these very stiff prototype chassis as well from Dallara. But you make a great point, Ryan, about Dallara. They've been incredibly helpful to iRacing, supplying all the information required to simulate these cars in such great detail. And amazing that Mr. Giampaolo Dallara, who founded the company in the early 1970s, he's now the ripe old age of 83, but still runs the company, but very much encouraging young people to work in the business. Their average age is 34 within the Dallara company, and of course have had so much success, the most successful IndyCar chassis manufacturer in history, and I guess that record is going to get continued to be built on, with of course them being the only chassis in the IndyCar Championship right now.
What on God's earth made you prepare for this broadcast and go, you know what fact I need? The average age of the Dallara workforce.
It's an important point. I prepared it just especially for you, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm sure it makes you feel quite old as well, seeing that average age, even younger than you, of course, are. That's all good for me, so that's going to hold him up the last corner. He had to, I think, drive a bit wider than he wanted to get around that other LMP2 machine. As he crosses the line, you can see he's 3/10 off his fastest lap. That is his qualifying session done. He won't make it back to the line to begin another lap. Karl Modov has got himself into second, just ahead of Christian Eisler. Inch by inch, they're getting closer and closer to Nathan Lewis, but no one getting close enough. Is this lap for Modov going to be close enough? I don't know if it will be, because his previous lap at the line was his fastest, and I haven't seen anyone put in 2 flying laps in a row in this session.
No, it's trying to string the laps together here at qualifying pace is so tricky. There's always a bump waiting to set you off course, as we see coming here through Sunset Bend. The suspension working incredibly hard there as well. And also the one thing that's really tricky to get used to on these Dallara LMP2 cars is the carbon brake. So you've really got to put a lot of pressure through the brake and get them up to heat. In fact, the car on the dashboard actually tells you the temperature of the brakes as well, which is incredibly useful, particularly on the warm-up lap, to check that you've got them up to temperature. Because when they're cold, carbon brakes, well, you'd be better throwing a balloon out the window to slow down when they're cold, because they are worse than useless when they're cold. But when they're heated up, you can just stop in a hurry.
Villandia got to the line there to begin another attempt before the session boots us all out. Chucking flaggers out, so anyone that gets to the line now is done for the session. David Fishman in 15th will stay there. Byron Daly will stay in 23rd as well. There is 0.173 covering our top 6. It is incredibly tight at the moment, as here comes Christopher Richards into pit lane. Going to make sure you've got that pit entry nailed, because you're going to need to come to the road during this race as well. David McDonald out of the last corner is in the fence. That won't be an improvement. Chris McGrath in 13th. Can he get through the last corner cleanly? 3rd time's a charm. There we go. We got someone coming to the line. 46.097 is best. 46.032 improves him by 1 spot.
Yeah, Chris driving for Pure Sims eSports, team part owned by Ash Sutton, the 2017 British Touring Car Champion and contender for the championship this year as well.
Hugo Galaz through the last corner. Sunset Bend. 29th will remain. 27th for Hugo. So finds 2 spots. Stephen Varady is in pit lane. And just behind him, someone's coming to the line. This is Paulo Munoz. Can he find a late improvement and get himself up onto the front row? Yes, he can. And it's just 7/1000ths of a second away from Nathan Lewis. That is about as close as it gets. And that is qualifying done here at Sebring. Let's take a look at how your field lines up for an hour around the bumpiest of them all. Nathan Lewis has held on for pole. Paulo Munoz's late improvement puts him on the front row with him. Karl Modov starts from 3rd ahead of Christian Eisler in 4th. Rodrigo Meets, but will start 5th ahead of David Holland on his outside. Lucas Bacigalupo starts in 7th ahead of Mauricio Cuero in 8th. Nicholas Rubilar and Horatio Carquin are on row 5 together.
Starting from the 6th row will be Chris McGrath and Sean Villandia. Row 7 will be Enzo Montechinos and David McDonald. Row 8 will be David Fishman and Sean Romig, followed by Michele Ferrari, Pablo Valenzuela Rurib, Michael A. Overbay and Byron Daly.
Row 11, Ciso Bagay and Andres Espinoza. Steve Coyori starts in 23rd ahead of Ignacio Rodriguez Frides. Ted Lowendike and Joshua Daniels are on row 13 ahead of Hugo Galaz and Stephen Varady. Rodrigo Munoz and Christopher Richards round out your top 30.
Final, then it's Sean Duhamel, Kenny Rodriguez, David Cristelli, Rodrigo Improta, William Martin da Silva, and finally Mark McDonald, who did not set a time.
36 cars. It is actually the biggest PRL field I've had the pleasure of calling. So I am really looking forward to this. What I'm not looking forward to is our 28-minute long formation lap here at Sebring, because for some reason, formation laps at this track begin at the start-finish line and not halfway around the circuit like a lot of our long tracks on the iRacing service. But it does give me time to do all of that fancy plugging stuff that keeps us going. Ain't that right? What's your name? Peter? Peter? Hey, you want to get your company involved with the Global SimRacing Channel? Well, with over 1 million impressions each and every month, it is a fantastic opportunity to get your brand seen by a broad audience. Head to the link in the description to find out more about how you can get involved with us here at GSRC. Thanks again to ButtKicker and Simsa as well, of course, for their continued support of this series. So, Peter, what are we looking at in terms of a fuel window for this one?
So with these Dallara LMP2 cars, somewhere between 35 and 40 minutes or so is what we should expect. So anytime from about 20 minutes into the race, you could see people diving into pit lane and be able to make it to the end of the race. One thing that I've noticed is quite strong with these cars is the drafting effect. It seems to be that they draft one another quite well. A little bit like the our old beloved LMP2 HBD that's recently been retired from competition in iRacing. And so that could make a little bit of an effect for fuel saving and what have you. But in general, somewhere between the 35 and 40 minute mark is how long you can go on a full tank in one of these V8, 4.2 litre V8 machines. There's a Gibson engine in the back of this car, built in Derbyshire in England. I know a part of your dual passport, Ryan. And do you know actually what Gibson and Ayrton Senna have in common?
I don't know, but it's not a dual passport, it's a dual citizenship. It's even better. And what do they have in common?
They do. Well, so Zytec, Bill Gibson, who founded Gibson Technology, also founded Zytec, who in the early 80s used to provide engine management system to Formula One teams, and they actually produced the first ever all-electric engine management system. And their first customer was Tolman, and at the time, that was when a young Ayrton Senna drove for them as well. So a little bit of a nice tenuous link for you between the Gibson engine in the back of this car and the great Ayrton Senna.
Hang on, I'm doing a Google Translate because someone put something in YouTube that had the word pronunciation in it, but it's a language I don't recognize. I'm going to Google Translate it and see whose name I've colossally screwed up, because, you know, there is a 98% chance. The pronunciation of the surnames is the best part. Ha ha ha. Thank you very much, Vicente. Oh god, you've got a surname I can't pronounce. There you go.
Oh.
Sepulveda? We'll go with that. At least you're tuning in and watching the broadcast. We can only ask that much.
Apologies.
Halfway through our formation lap here. All of the shows that I do, at least, should come with a disclaimer across the bottom of the screen when we're reading through the grid. Pronunciations will be horribly incorrect.
But Ayrton Senna references will be.
They will be correct.
They will be correct.
Or not. Yeah, and we can always rely on you for weirdly abstract facts. Still can't understand why you knew what the average workforce was, but here we go. Heading on to that back straight, we'll call it, even though it's only one corner away from the front straight. And we're looking at lap times in the regions of 1:45. Looking at a 1 hour race. This one going to be over 20 laps long, and that might be underselling it a little bit. It will be Nathan Lewis in control of the field. And I do wonder what we're going to see down at Turn 1, because 36 cars, I would place my bet on someone taking it 3 wide, not about 4 wide. Not quite sure that's going to work out. Luckily, turn 1 is incredibly wide, but it does narrow down in towards turn 2, so you've got to be careful. Pace car peels off. Nathan Lewis in control of the field. Up through the gears we go. We are racing in Sebring for round 2 of the PRL LMP2 series, and that is a fantastic launch that Lewis has got. Behind him, Paulo Munoz trying to fend off Carl Modoff, who got to his inside. That's wide from one of the drivers. Grabbed the grass, but I think got away with it.
Yeah, if you can get the wheels straightened up, you can just about get away with that over the grass. But when the car snaps back, it's pretty aggressive, and it's easy to get into an irretrievable tank slapper. But woof, look at that! Away from the lead has gone Nathan Lewis, and he's been able to put a little bit of space between them, between the rest of the field as they break in for the hairpin for the very first time. Very, very tricky braking zone and tight turning zone there. Oh, and we've got a car park at the back.
Yep, that was to be expected. So, a lot of cars have gone around down at the hairpin. They're still coming through there. But Nathan Lewis, as you mentioned, a fantastic start because, largely in part, Carl Modoff has been incredibly aggressive, hunting for a way to get by Paulo Munoz, who's finally been able to break a little bit free of those shackles. Right as I say that, he was a little bit slow on the exit of that corner. Another car off in the background. Nails the tyre bundle as well. That is Sean Velandia. That might need to come back to pit lane for some repairs. We'll see. Let's go back up towards that P2 battle. Here we go. If Modoff gets the run here, he could have a look up the inside for the final corner. He's definitely got that momentum, Peter.
Could get the draft here. Here he goes then, coming down into Sunset. The tyres will be just still getting up to temperature. Brake should be okay as well. And whoa, oh my goodness me, Munoz tries to go round the outside Ricky Bobby style, nearly makes it stick, and I thought he was going to go all the way around the outside there, Ryan. That was incredibly impressive from Munoz as they go side by side down towards turn 1. Oh, this is going to be tight. Oh, take a deep breath in, but they get through cleanly. Very, very good racing at the front here.
Modov still hasn't fully taken away the spot. Now he's able to do it as he squeezes in front of Munoz, and Modov, after a lap and a bit of trying, is up into P2. Munoz now has got to be careful he doesn't let that get to him, because there is a very big chance of that compounding into many more spots going away from him. Behind him, he's got Rodrigo Meets and Lucas Bacigalupo. Mauricio Cuero as well tucked in there in 6th. So second through P6 in a nice little train here. 2.4 second advantage for Nathan Lewis.
And Modoff, Munoz, and Mies. It sounds like a solicitor's firm. If you've been in an accident, call Modoff, Munoz, and Mies, and we shall get you the claim that you need. But they are racing hard here at the home of American sports car racing, coming down onto the Flying Fortress straight now towards Gendebian Bend and down towards Le Mans Curve, a very important bend. Le Mans Curve to get that good exit onto the Ullman Straight, but they're all going back into single file now onto the back straight. Yeah,
weirdly enough, Sebring isn't the track you want to go side by side on for too much. But here we go. Munoz is on the defense again into Sunset Bend. Rodrigo Meets is having a look, trying to maybe follow in the footsteps of Modoff. If he can get a good exit here, he might be able to slip up the inside at turn 1. Don't think his exit's quite been good enough. One of the fun things about taking these cars anywhere is quite short braking zones, which means you've really got to be quite close to make a move as well.
Yeah, absolutely. These carbon brakes, you can stand on them hard and they just pull up so quickly. So let's have a look at what's happened to Nicholas Rublar here on the bumps coming through Sunset Bend, and just hits the biggest of the bumps. And round he goes. That is just it's almost hard to even call that a mistake, Ryan, because you can be following your line as normal, and if you're just a smidge to the left or right, you hit that bump, and these cars, they're so stiff that it's so hard, it's so easy just to get in that big spin.
It is. The way that car reacted, it's almost looked like he'd actually clipped the inside fence there, because that rear end snapped around at him, and he would have had nothing to even know about that by the time it gone. That sentence made no sense. Let's ignore it. So, battle for P9. We've got McGrath, Fishman, Daly, Romig, all in a group. This is a good little train. And Ferraris, I dare say, going to be under pressure when we get towards the corner of 1,000 lines. Look how close McGrath is to that back bumper as we come out of the penultimate corner. Tell you what, Ferraris did a very good job to launch out of there nicely, as I think Ferraris has had a bit of the old internet go poof, but it's come back and still ahead, crucially. And look at Fishman looking for his way through as well.
Oh, as we see all the drivers speeding past the into turn 1 now, and yeah, McGrath is flashing his lights. I guess it's just a distraction tactic. I don't think there was any foul play there. Very much on the flashing lights again. So he's obviously pretending that he's at the wheel of an Audi at the moment. But certainly Audi had a lot of success here. 11 wins here at the Sebring 12 Hour. So maybe he's trying to channel his inner Audi driver by flashing his headlights at the car in front.
Well, let's take a look at the replay then of the chaos down at the hairpin on the opening lap. Hey, there you can see Modov trying to get by Munoz early on, how it didn't work out. But it was a few cars behind them that really ran into dramas down here. Modov looking to the outside. Look behind then as we jump in towards the braking zone, and the very tight right-hander out. It was about 9th place that spun initially, and then I think it caused a chain reaction of drivers just trying to avoid ending up hitting someone else, and in the end I think about 5 or 6 different cars facing the wrong way at some stage down there.
Yeah, a bit of a pile up there. Of course, that hairpin has quite a bit of heritage as well. In 1957, Stirling Moss actually slowed down during the Sebring 12 Hour. Slowed down at that particular hairpin almost to a stop. A very friendly photographer gave him a bottle of Coca-Cola, and he drank it going round the following lap. And when he came round the next lap, he'd finished the Coca-Cola and threw the empty bottle at the photographer.
Hey, well, at least it's Coca-Cola. You're a proud part of the iRacing family. 52 minutes still remaining in this race. A ways away from seeing any pit stops. Might see a move here, though. Fishman's under a bit of pressure from Daly. Is fallen away from McGrath after being very close up at Sunset Bend a lap or 2 ago. McGrath and Ferraris, actually, both of them driving away from Fishman and Daly here. Here we go. Daly's got to run. Is Fishman going to move it over and cover the inside? Not quite. Drives down the middle of the racetrack, but Daly lurches for that inside line. And if he can pull it up, he's got the move done. He does just that. So Byron Daly puts himself up into the top 10 after starting this one from P20. One of our biggest movers early on. He's plus 10. But if you look further down, you've got Mark McDonald, who's plus 15 after starting this one from dead last. So he's had a pretty good race.
Yeah, Byron Daly was one of our hard chargers last time out at Interlagos. Unfortunately, a late mistake caused him to not get the result that he should have. But yeah, I believe Byron Daly is actually a former, funny enough, you mentioned Coca-Cola NASCAR e-racing driver. So he's back in the sim in an LMP2 car, and you could not get a more different vehicle than a NASCAR than an LMP2 car.
Ah, you could. LMP1.
That's the choice now, Ryan.
Hey?
Actually, I beg to differ, actually. The LMP1 would have a more similar top speed.
Oh. Stuff here. Through. There goes Cesar Bagai. We were watching there. He's in 18th place. I've butchered that name, but I don't care. I still think Fishman here, he's done a good job. He's up from where he started, but I think he's struggling a little bit for some overall race pace, because Sean Romig's got by him as well. And now he's falling into the clutches of Rubilar and Calquin. So I wonder if there's any adjustments the Fishman can make to make that car a little bit better for him.
Yeah, maybe he'll maybe need to get his hook into Romig in front and yeah, try and get the toe along. It's that's the good thing about these LMP2 cars. If you can just about hang on to the driver in front, you do get that quite a good aerodynamic benefit as well, as we're riding on board really late there, into Cunningham corner. Really tricky right-hander there, and then you've got to get on the power. And these cars have got so much horsepower, 600 horsepower, and they really want to oversteer on that initial application of the throttle. So it's a real balancing act driving these machines.
Certainly is. It's a high-speed tangle around here. And Fishman is about to be dispatched by Nicholas Rubelar. He did a fantastic job across the middle portion of this racetrack to close up towards the back of Fishman. He shows the nose to the inside up at Sunset Bend. And Fishman says, you know what, you can have it, as he takes the wide line, and Rubelar won't have the spot there. So Fishman fought back in the second phase. They almost touched down the straightaway, and Fishman's actually got his nose back ahead now as we dip towards turn one. Horatio Carquin's looking on at this, trying to figure out how he could capitalize. And at the end of it all, Fishman comes out still in P12. So he did a good job there to fend that off, but he has held both himself and Rubelar up. Carquin gets close, and Holland gets closer. Holland, of course, on the recovery drive, he was, I think, the first man to spin down at the hairpin there on lap one. Started 6th, currently 15th.
Yeah, Fishman was and I tell you what, there goes Rubelar now. He goes by, but Fishman was clever there, using, as you call it, the line at the corner of 1,000 lines, the Sunset Bend. He went round the outside, and even though Rubelar had the inside, of course, that gave Fishman the inside for turn one. So the outside line can work in a battle at Sunset Corner, but nothing Fishman can do there about Rubelar. Just that better exit out of Gurney Bend and in on the brakes into the hairpin. Head through Tower Bend, big bump on the inside here. You'll see David Holland having to put a little bit of corrective action in there, but pretty smooth from the number 25 driver. That is the key here around Sebring, just almost anticipating those bumps and need to catch them. And oh, that's getting a bit spicy.
Carquin was about a millimetre away from the back of Fishman's car as he came through the tight and twisty there. Hey, look at the gap at the front. It's down to 0.6 of a second. Nathan Lewis is about to come under all sorts of pressure from Karl Modov, who's been motoring along ever since he got by Paulo Munoz and closed down what was a 2.5 second advantage to, well, now a gap that can be called just by looking at it. There's how he's gained, or rather how Lewis has lost ever since lap 3.
Yeah, just look at the consistency of Modov's lap times as well there. You know, 46.3, 46.5, 46.5 again, 46.6, 46.5. That is really, really impressive to just bang out those consistent lap times. And that's so hard to beat as well when somebody's just on that quick pace all the time. And for Lewis, he would have seen that, that gap just eroding bit by bit as we see the 79 of Cuero going past Bakagalubo in the Punto CL Racing Red machine, even though there's quite a bit of blue in it, obviously, as you can see.
Predominantly red.
Predominantly red, correct. That is true.
There's another one of them just in front of him as well. 7/10 between the top two. 2 seconds back to Munoz. 3.4 to Meets and 5.7 to Cuero, who's coming under quite a bit of pressure from Bacigalupo. Up in 6th place, as you say.
Modov's in the draft here.
Yeah, Modov is in the draft, and sorry, in fact, Bacigalupo and Cuero have switched around on this lap. So, Karl Modov gets himself within the draft of Nathan Lewis. He'll close maybe about a 10th down this main straight. It's not quite long enough to get a massive benefit from it. And through turn one, might start to suffer from a bit of, dirty air, as we call it. The hole in the air being punched by that lead car, Nathan Lewis. And it means there's not as much air pushing Modoff's down, giving him downforce through the corners. So his advantage in terms of pace might get slightly smaller now that he's in that area. We look back to the P8 battle, still alive between Ferraris, McGrath, and Daly. Looking to find another couple of spots here. Daly, who I'd say is probably the fastest of the three.
It's interesting you see there. Lewis was. I think that's a good point there, Ryan, because Lewis looked quite a bit stronger coming out of Sunset Bend. Got a far better exit and more corner speed, and kind of left Modoff in the dust going down the straight. I wonder if that's got something to do with that kind of aero wash. Some drivers refer to it as the Bermuda Triangle. It basically means that they like to say the turbulent air coming out the back of the car in front can just sort of damage the aerodynamic benefit, if you like, as well. I remember watching one V8 supercar race where James Courtney ploughed in his one and only race for Team Sydney, ploughed their car straight into the concrete wall, following a car a little bit too closely in front. And the Bermuda Triangle is the word. It can sometimes just seem, obviously it is invisible, and can just be really tricky for a driver to manage from time to time. So Nathan Lewis leads right now at the front just by 0.3 of a second, and it's +0 on the pit board. Modoff really putting some hard pressure now on Nathan Lewis, and there's a long way to go until they can take their pit stops, probably another 10 minutes at least for these drivers to be absolutely safe. So it'll be interesting to see who blinks first, and if they run these tanks dry. I guess with some open air in front, they'll probably want to keep going, but you never know. We don't know. Nathan Lewis is certainly under a lot of pressure right now as Modoff moves out of the draft. Is he going to have a look? No, he does not.
He's got to be careful because Lewis's pace is really dropping off, and as Modoff's got caught in that Bermuda Triangle of air, Paulo Munoz is closing up rapidly as well. It's now 0.9 of a second, covering your top three. So this is really tightening up as we get about a quarter of the way through our race. Modoff has got to make sure he's very strong through this sector now. And he launches onto the back straight about a car length or two behind a race leader. Then he could have a look down at Sunset Bend.
Yeah, you've just got to line it, as you say, line it up all the way down the Ullman Straight, but this is the corner, Le Mans, where you've really got to get on the power early and open it up, open the steering up and get into the draft of the car in front. So we're riding on board with Paulo Munoz right now, and he's not quite getting the draft effect from Modoff's car. Of course, with an open setup, we don't know how the drivers have set up their aerodynamics. Of course, these cars are incredibly sophisticated. The front and rear aerodynamics can be adjusted, and some drivers will try and compromise a little bit, where they'll trim their car out with a little bit less aerodynamic to reduce drag and get more speed down the straights, but of course don't have the same grip through the corners. And you can really see how some drivers prefer to have it set up. It looked to me there that Munoz's car might just be that little bit more draggy, so we could see him close up more in the twistier stuff.
Aaron Daly just picked up a spot in his battle as well. Here's the replay of it. A change in front as McGrath gets by Ferraris, and Daly was squeezed on the inside there. Did Ferraris take that spot back? No, I don't think so. He was sliding out of the last corner, but McGrath had to cover up at turn 1. And where does Daly go? Goes to follow McGrath. Ferraris loses 2 for the price of 1 as Daly slips by as well.
Yeah, I think maybe Ferraris just thinking, on you go. Just playing the long game, saying, okay, guys, you go if you're quick, on you go. But Ferraris should hopefully be able to tag on to the back of this group now, get them to tow along at least until the pit stops. Now, just shade over 40 minutes to go in this race. Anywhere in the next 5 minutes or so, the pit window will open for drivers if they want to take an early stop and jump out of sequence. If there's a driver who maybe thinks they're getting held up where they are and wants a little bit of clean air to lay down some quick laps, then they can do that. But of course, Brian, these machines quite sensitive to weight. Of course, as they burn the fuel off, every lap, you know, that the weight of the car reduces, and therefore the lap speed reduces. So it's a bit of a balancing act of how to play it.
It is. If you look at their outright fastest pace, well, they're not getting quicker and quicker, it would seem, not at this point anyway, because 46.5 on lap 3 was Lewis's fastest lap. His last lap was a 46.8. Carl Modov a 46.3 and then a 47.0 at last time by. So maybe if they drop a bit more fuel out, they'll be able to overcome that. But I think the undercut might definitely be worth something, purely based off the clean air. Looking at that McGrath, Daly, Ferraris battle again. No one's close enough to make a move down to the hairpin this time by. We've still got 33 drivers running in this race. Only the 3 retirements, which is Uribe, Fredes, and Espinoza. So, a lot of cars still out there on the racetrack. I reckon there's probably a chance we get to see some lap traffic play a part in the leaders' battle at some point later on as well.
Could be, yeah. The moment the tail end of the field currently sitting about a minute off the leaders. So yes, when they certainly around the pit stops, definitely. Maybe just in the closing stages of the race, there might be a little bit of that to worry about. But Nathan Lewis doing a great job to keep Modov and Munoz behind, and of course Rodrigo Mies, they are not too far behind in 4th as well. And you never know. Just in this group of 4, we know they're all really, really quick. And you just don't know who's maybe playing the strategy game, who's just saving that little bit of fuel, sitting there patiently in the draft, saving a bit of fuel, and also saving a bit of tyre life as well, because 60 minutes in a low-grip surface like Sebring is really, really hard work for these tyres. So it'll be interesting to see who's just keeping their powder dry and maybe willing to save a bit of fuel and therefore reduce the amount of time they have to spend on pit lane.
38 minutes. I think the fuel window probably route up 35 minutes to go towards about 20 minutes to go, I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you came in the next lap, you would have to be pretty careful, but you could do it. Somewhere between 35 and 40 minutes is your maximum stint length in one of these cars right now. They burn through their fuel tank pretty quickly. 600 horsepower V8 will do that. No turbochargers, naturally aspirated, and they're quite a unique noise, but a beautiful noise nonetheless. And they're engines that like to be revved as well. They don't have an awful lot of grunt down low. You've kind of got to keep them singing to get the best lap time. But with the aerodynamics that these cars have, that's no trouble at all. But at the moment, Nathan Lewis doing a great job to lead the pack right now.
That was a mistake from Nathan Lewis out of that corner. He got too wide. I think he grabbed the grass, and you can see how slow he is down this straight as Modov gets ever closer, and he looks to the outside, trying to carry the speed the long way around at Sunset Bend. Trying to go for the crossover instead. Gets a fantastic exit from there as well. There's no room on the left-hand side. Lewis shutting that door firmly closed. They almost touch down the straight. Drivers don't even getting very close in that little straight. Oh, that's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful from Modov. That is a textbook switchback. Gets the momentum, gets the spot. Modov to the lead.
I'm not wearing a cap, but I'm doing the motion of doffing my cap. I have to agree with you, Ryan. That is an absolutely textbook move, a blockbuster move here at Sebring. Of course, blockbuster movie star Steve McQueen won his class here in 1970, and this was fitting of any blockbuster film. Look at that. As you say, perfect switchback, gets the inside line, brakes, and Nathan Lewis is probably thinking, I actually don't know how I could have stopped that.
I don't think there was any way he was stopping that. Modov had finally found his opportunity to get to the lead of this race. It might not be a bad idea for Nathan Lewis now to dive to pit road as well, and maybe try to change things up. Because as we saw earlier with Ferraris, once you lose one, it's very easy to lose two. And the good news for Lewis is he wasn't put offline too badly, and it was as part of the racetrack where momentum wasn't particularly critical. So Munoz wasn't able to capitalize as well. It did allow Rodrigo Meat to gain about 6/10 of a second. He's now only 1.4 back. He was 2.1 back at the start of the lap. We can snake our way down the back straight. Everyone trying to chase the draft. Looks like Christian Eisler's just joined our list of retirements, unfortunately. I think rather unwillingly. I think his internet actually dropped out on him.
Oh no, that is the worst when that happens. You'll see a lot of the times when the drivers are coming out of the corner, you'll see the rear of the car just wiggle, and that is, although it doesn't look much on the broadcast, you really notice that in the car when you're just applying the power. It just the rear tire the rear of the car just shakes and wiggles a little bit, and that managing that and getting the power down in these cars and getting them driving is such a balancing act. It's so tricky. So if you see that with the drivers, you see the rear of the car wiggle. It might not look much, but believe me, on board it requires a lot of modulation of both the throttle and the steering input as well.
We're looking at Sean Romick here, who's got Nicholas Rubelar and David Holland for close company behind him. So Holland has not found much progress, if any, since his lap 1 spin. He's still only 13th. Remember, last time we checked on him, he was 15th. Well, he's found 2 spots, but he'll be probably still disappointed with how this is planning out. Almost halfway through this event. He's got pace, but what we're seeing today is it's proving very difficult to actually get past someone. Find that last little bit of speed you need to complete an overtaking maneuver. There's actually an LMP2 team that's involved in iRacing in the eSport world. G-Drive race in LMP2. They have a team called G-Drive Eximia eSports. Not represented in PRL competition, but well, that was an interesting fact.
It is indeed, yeah. G-Drive, a big part of the LMP2 community, both in the European Le Mans Series and the World Endurance Championship, which this car did win in the European Le Mans Series, but it never won in the World Endurance Championship. But still, the Settilar Motorsport team using this car running at Le Mans a couple of weeks ago, and of course, being an Italian team, of course, they have to use the Lara machine. If we have any fans of the IMSA WeatherTech Championship watching this evening, if you might be more familiar with the DPI prototype machines, but actually the DPIs share a lot of characteristics with these cars, the LMP2, and in fact the Cadillac DPI shares the same chassis, gearbox and suspension as this car, as we see the 777 of Rubelar trying to make a move. No, they blocked off by Romick, and these guys have been stuck together for quite a while now. You wonder, Ryan, if they're running their ultimate pace or if they're maybe holding one another up a little bit.
I would say Rubelar's being held up a little bit here by Romick. Took a very wide entry to the hairpin there. Not quite sure he intended to do so, because it momentarily put him under a bit of pressure from David Holland. But he got away with it. I love sitting on board in the cockpit of these cars. It's such a futuristic little bubble, isn't it?
And you see immediately there just the oversteer that David Holland's fighting there, and then here comes the big bump, whack, and the car just hates it through there. It just goes, oh no, mamma mia. And so we're going through Gendebian curve down towards Le Mans, and you see the two. You see Rubelar and Romick battling away in the front, but yeah, they're so claustrophobic in these prototype cars, but incredibly safe. You just look at the amount of carbon fiber around here. The driver is in such a well protected cell. But the one thing that a lot of drivers really struggle with when they first get into these cars is the field of vision, and nothing wrong with the field of vision of Rubelar there as he gets by up the inside at Sunset Curve, and he is up into 11th place.
Good job from Nicholas Rubelar. Oh, here we go. He's going to fight back. Thought about it. Decided maybe not. Sean Romick. David Holland will be taking notes there and thinking maybe I can get by the same way down at Sunset Bend next time by. So he immediately closes up to the back bumper of that green and black machine. And in fact, he's got a pretty good exit. He might be able to have a lunge down at the hairpin here if Romick doesn't cover. Here comes Holland. Romick doesn't cover, and Holland gets to the inside. Can he get the car slowed and turned? Not quite as well as Sean Romick could. Romick fends him off for now.
Oh, I just thought he was maybe going to let the brake off there and run it in, but good respect from both drivers as they head into Cunningham. Another really tricky right-hand corner here. First, second gear, and then back on the power, trying to keep the car singing as they head down towards Tower Bend for the next time. And then you get to see that horrible bump on the inside of the corner. And wide there goes Rubilar, but Romick right behind. Oh, sorry, Holland. My apologies. Romick and Holland. And Holland. Oh, now that's a cheeky place to go through. My word. I don't think I've ever seen anyone pull off an overtake through there, Ryan.
Let's take another look at this. As we set ourselves up here, Holland is in no man's land. But it was a terrible exit for Romick, wasn't it? Look how much more speed Holland has. And he just says, you know what? I'm not waiting. See you later. Very cheeky. Very opportunistic and a good move. Someone's in pit lane. It's Byron Daly.
Okay, so let's see what Byron Daly can do. He's been moving up the field throughout the race so far. 28 minutes to go, so he's going for the kind of early pit strategy and going for the undercut. So let's see how well that gets on, filling the tank up with fuel. He'll have to be in here for quite a while, that's the only thing. So we'll see how this one plays out.
There we go. Byron Daly pulls away after a 29-second stationary time on pit road. Going to be beaten out of the lane by William Martins de Silva because de Silva is a lap down, I think, at this stage now. He's 32nd. McGrath, up the order, has picked up a spot on David McDonald. Here we go.
David McDonald in the front. How's he going to get it done? Heading down towards Tower Bend. Ooh, sorry, Cunningham, my apologies. Good move there. That's not an easy move to pull off either. I have to say, how cool is David McDonald's machine with that? It's almost like a kind of a US Air Force like stealth bombers paint scheme. Really, really cool. I like that. And I like the P217 on the side of it as well, of course, the code name for this Dallara car.
And he's straight into pit lane. Is McDonald after losing out on that spot he's joined by Ferraris as well. You can see that yellow car Ferraris just in the background as they edge it across to their pit bays. They look like very small pit bays here at Sebring, but I think in actuality in iRacing you've got a bit more room to play with than you actually do. Yeah.
Nathan, I think, is that Nathan Lewis? He's down to fourth right now, so he's lost out to Mies. My apologies, Lewis has got a very similar colour scheme to one of the other cars in pit lane, but he's dropped back quite a bit. It looks like that's been happening sort of slowly but surely over the last few laps for Nathan Lewis, because he's lost out to Munoz and Mies. Looking at the timing screen for Lewis, yeah, he was quite slow the last time around, a 48.9, whereas Modov 46.5, so he's made a small mistake somewhere along the way.
Here we go. Was it into Sunset Bend? Oh, no. Oh. Toward back half of the circuit. No, the front half of the circuit.
Here it goes.
Ooh, that was surely very close to contact there between them. Was there contact down here? A little bit.
And it's like you said, Ryan, it's lose one place and often there's someone else ready there to... yes, just at Gurney corner there. Oof. But exactly like you said, lose one and then all of a sudden you've lost two.
That was a great exchange as well. A lot of respects given. A little bit of contact between them on a couple of occasions, I think, but nothing too major. Mode off, by the way, is out to a 2.7 second advantage as into pit road comes David Holland.
So David Holland coming in for his stop. How long is he going to spend in the lane? As you see his Michelin tyres screech to a halt there in the pit box. Of course, if you think the racetrack surface here at Sebring has no grip, the pit lane is like a skating rink as well. But while you're filling up with fuel, you can of course admire all the list of winning manufacturers which sit above the pit garages. So you know, if you've got 29 seconds to spare, why not check out some Sebring history?
Yeah, why not? I'm going to keep myself occupied somehow. As Holland rejoins the racetrack right behind David McDonald.
So this is game on then between Holland and McDonald. Another good name for a solicitor firm, it would be. But yeah, David Holland, that's probably not what he had in mind. Hopefully he would have liked to have come out in clean air, but let's see if David McDonald is going to be a good dancing partner for the number 25 driver. But at the moment, now, is this our leaders coming in? It is. Karl Modov is in the lane. Who else has followed him in? They all have. Yeah, Munoz and Lewis in as well.
You know when I said the end of the pit window would be about lap 20, about 25 minutes to go?
Yep.
I think that's come to fruition. Oh. Everyone's in the lane.
Oh, now the 84 of Lucas Bacalubo overshoots his pit box and has to hit it into reverse gear and reverse back slightly. That'll cost him vital time.
Well, it's incredibly easy. It is concrete down there on pit road. So there's not as much grip as there is through the last corner that you're used to. You jump on that brake pedal, it's incredibly easy to lock up and go straight on through your bay. Neeps has continued though for another lap. So is Carrero in second.
So Lewis, so the race on pit road, Modov, Munoz, Lewis is the order of those guys, with Rodrigo Mies still carrying on in the 88 machine. Now, for Rodrigo Mies, he will probably have to come into pit lane here because, well, that car will be running on fumes right now. Very, very little fuel surely on board right now. Been running for 39 minutes plus the pace lap, so I would expect him to dive into pit road right now, and going for the overcut is Rodrigo Mies. And in you go.
So, 22 minutes remaining, and everyone now into pit lane to complete our pit stop cycle. And it should be Karl Modov that emerges. And did Rodrigo Mies have to exercise some avoiding action on pit road as someone came out of their pit bay straight into his path?
It did look like it, yeah. It looked like he had to do a little bit of a shuffle. Hopefully it didn't involve any damage. We'll keep an eye on that. I'm sure it would have been fine. But here's Karl Modov then in the 948. He's coming around Sunset Bend. I think he's going to jump Rodrigo Mies by quite some margin, I would suggest. But let's see. Coming over the line right now. Where is Rodrigo Mies? Rodrigo Mies is just coming out of his pit box there. You can just see at the top of the shot. Or is that... Oh, no, my apologies. My apologies, viewers. Rodrigo Mies is spent 5 seconds less in the lane, and there leapfrogs for the race 1 winner.
That is a fantastic stop. The Neeps and Modov will be disappointed with that. He struggled to get by Neeps earlier on, didn't he? Sorry, no, it wasn't Neeps. It was Nathan Lewis that was ahead of him earlier on. So Neeps is... He was running third, wasn't he, before that pit stop phase?
Yeah. He was actually running fourth for the majority of the time, actually. He was sort of... Now, remember what we said? Who's got something up their sleeve? Rodrigo Mies was just sitting quietly at the back of that pack in fourth for most of the opening stint. And I think he's maybe just think, I'll just go a couple of laps longer on fuel, then I've got less to put in for the end, and that would certainly add up with 5 seconds quicker in the lane. It looks like Rodrigo Mies has played a strategical blinder, but I tell you what's not a blinder is this. Lap traffic here is going to hinder him slightly. and Modov might smell an opportunity. Let's see if he can pounce.
Yep. Meets is being held up ever so slightly now by the slower car, who's going to pull to the inside and let them go by at Sunset Bend. So that's a good decision. And that releases our top two as Modov goes with a big dive up at Sunset. Pulls it up, gets it turned, but gets no sort of exit to contend with what Meats got. Up on that outside, he was able to straighten the car up a lot earlier.
Yeah, good defense there from Mays, but I thought Modov was going to park it on the apex there and take the spot, but I think that with Knight, runs wide, Meads runs wide onto the gravel, and you can tell he's pushing his big Modov, backing it in there into turn 3. Not often do you hear about someone backing in a prototype racing car, but Karl Modov did it there, and that's given Mays just that little bit of a breathing space, but 19 minutes to go, I think we're going to see a really good dogfight for this race win.
Yeah, Meats is not going to give this up easy, and Karl Modov is not going to go away without a fight either. Nathan Lewis, who led the early portions of this race, has fallen all the way back to P5. So his pit stop area has not gone well. Mauricio Cuero has managed to get by him, and it happened on this lap. In fact, at this point, Cuero's already ahead. Down at turn 1, yeah, look at that exit for Lewis. Grabs the grass, that kills his momentum, and Cuero's able to go by on the straight with ease.
You're lucky to keep it out the wall there. Not often do you go in the grass on the exit of Sunset and avoid the wall, but he did, and he's losing places again. Hand over fist back at Galupo going past as well. So Lewis now into 6th. So after running such strong pace at the start of the race, just starting to fade back slowly but surely, and it's so easy, when you're in the middle of a race and you just make 1 or 2 mistakes, and the mistakes can just breed more mistakes, and you can just get into a little bit of a funk, and that appears to be what's happening to Nathan Lewis. He's just dropping off the pace that we know he's capable of, but it's certainly been the benefit of back at Galubo. He's up to 6th place right now, but top 5 just covered by 8.5 seconds after over 40 minutes of racing. It's certainly very, very close indeed.
It's been a great race so far, and it's not over with, as there's an issue for Rodrigo Munoz. He's side by side, and whoop, around the outside goes. That was Sean Villandia getting by Joshua Daniels. Getting by Joshua Daniels, as Munoz switched by them both as well. In fact, I think Munoz has dropped a bit to be back here, because these guys 24th, 25th, he was 21st at the start of the lap.
So let's have a look and see what happened then. We're heading through past the real party area there on the right hand side here at Sebring as they go by down into Cunningham, and just gets a little bit locked up on the brakes, and does well to keep it out the barrier and rejoin without too much problem. But good job there to keep it out the barrier, but not ideal entry into the corner.
And Joshua Daniels was a bit unfortunate there, as he got balked out of the corner and lost a spot as a result. To Valendia. How are they going up at the front? There is 0.6 of a second still between them. Meats doing a fantastic job driving away from Karl Modov ever so slightly now. Gap opens up again on that lap.
Only marginally though. Karl Modov, in fact, Karl Modov actually just a slither quicker, but they're really, really evenly matched here. But Mays, we saw him actually. Funnily enough, I think it was actually at Sebring. I might be mistaken, but in the last season in the GTE cars, Mays played a similar strategical master stroke and to win that race, and clearly he was sitting there just chilling out there in 3rd and 4th position, letting the guys do the hard work at the front and just saving lots and lots of fuel. And that time on the lane has been critical for him to hop over Modov. And Modov now, he's all of a sudden he's dealing with a very different Rodrigo Mays that he found before the pit stops, because Mays is now pushing with all of the pace that he has.
Something happened to Rubila further back in the field. He's all by himself, so whatever's happened, he's done it by himself. Oh yeah, that was a slow slide, and he caught it. Had to take a tour through the grass and lost just the one spot. Not a bad result, considering how it could have been there if he'd not caught that car. Half a second now between the top two, so it's come down again on this lap. Modov fighting back.
David Holland going past Rubilar there in the 25 machine up to 8th place. You see David McDonald just in the back of shot there in that beautiful stealth bomber liveried machine or military aircraft paint scheme. Very, very cool indeed. There he is. Wonderful looking car. That's fantastic. Love it. So 14 minutes to go, and this race is too close to call between Rodrigo Mies and Karl Modov. Just half a second separate them as they on that last lap couldn't be. Well, Modov actually going quicker again. Modov about 1.5 seconds quicker as they go through traffic. Oh, and that is definitely played in the hands of Mies.
You can see on the leaderboard on the left how the gap opened up. It was half a second at the start of the lap. It's now closer to a second between them because Modov had a car that was outside, couldn't get on the throttle as cleanly as he wanted to, but the way that went for him could easily go that way for Nice as well. They've got Sean to Hamel, Rodrigo and Proto ahead of them as well. So I imagine they'll catch before the end of this race. In fact, might get to Hamel before the end of this lap.
Yeah, that's always, it can always play a pivotal factor, especially in sports car racing where the blue flag means something quite different than what it does in, say, Formula 1, for example, where drivers want to stay on the lead lap. They don't want to lose their position, but sometimes it's better just not to be the mobile chicane and just get out the way and let the leaders come through. It can sometimes be very much in the interest to do that. But Rodrigo Mies, he's just taken that chance to break away that little bit more. It'll be interesting to see the comparison in the lap times. I mean, Modov just been taking half a tenth each lap out of Mies up to that point, but that has created a big, big difference. Let's see what their lap times are when they get over the line.
Meets 47.5. Modov 47.8. So he loses 0.3 that lap.
That could have been worse.
All of that would have been the lap traffic.
Yeah, I think that shows you how he actually he really must have been really, really quick through the rest of the lap, because he definitely lost more than 0.3 of a second in that little excursion in traffic. Of course, it will have held Mies up a fraction as well, let's not forget, but this battle is far from over. They're very, very close. 12 minutes to go, just over 6 laps here, about 7 or 8 laps actually here at Sebring to go.
Consider positions gained and lost in the field. Martin McDonald is now plus 21. Remember, I highlighted him earlier on. He was plus 15. He's had a good race, 36th to 15th for him so far. By far the biggest mover in the field. And he's got a pretty healthy margin back to 16th as well.
Noticed he's got his initials on the shark fin there, the MM. That's very, very cool from Mark McDonald as well. I hope that livery's on Trading Paints, because I might go and pinch it actually. But have you turned some laps in these cars since it's come onto the service, Ryan?
Yes.
And your thoughts?
Fast.
Very fast, yeah. That's concise. I've been quite enjoying it. Taking a while to get used to compared to my my beloved HBD, the old LMP2 car. But I've got a Richard Mille paint scheme on it as well, which is quite nice. Nice dark red, kind of burgundy colours. Quite cool. As we see, this is close. Woohoo! Coming through here, coming through towards Tower Turn. Dyson back and forward between the 44 of Enzo Mucinos and Cecil Bagay.
David Fishman back there as well. He's really fallen after being up as high as about 11th to 12th earlier on. Back in 18th, Ted Lowendyke behind him. He's plus 6 in this race. Teammates with Cecil Bagay as well, who is not particularly fast through there on that lap. bit wide of the apex. Could he got on the throttle as early as he wanted to, and that allows Montinos to pull a bit of a gap.
Back at the front, Modov has gone 0.3 of a second quicker than Mies that last time around. So when they're, and look at this, the gap has really shrunk between these two drivers, Mies and Modov. And here comes more traffic. Now, who is going to get the benefit of this? And oh, well done from the lap traffic there. That's the number 11 car of Rodrigo Improta. Great respect from him to allow the leaders to come through cleanly as they come into Rindebian Bend and over towards Le Mans Curve. But tell you what, Modov has got... Oh, it's Munoz is off in the background. He's spun.
Third place.
Oh,
Loops
no.
it. Keeps it off the fence. There's plenty of runoff down there, but that is going to cost Munoz a couple of positions. He slots in to 6th, right behind Nathan Lewis. So what happened to Munoz? Was it a lap traffic, or did he just...
oh,
it was. There
no.
was contact between them. Munoz turns in, the lap traffic, and Proto was still there on the inside.
And that is a great example of the lack of field of vision that you have in these prototype machines. And that is really unlucky for Munoz, because he was in the podium positions, and that's pushed him back to 5th place. He has got back past Nathan Lewis immediately, but oh, that, yeah, likely to be his podium charge over. That is just really, really unlucky.
Has elevated Mauricio Kerr up to 3rd, though, after starting 8th. He'll be happy with that. In fact, no one from our... Modov is the only driver from our first 2 rows to still be up inside of that top 4. Running 2nd, still stalking Meeks, hoping that he makes a mistake and they can close up. And Modov, he's just struggling for that last little bit. A bit like he was earlier on behind Lewis for a while. There is Lewis behind Munoz. I imagine he won't be too aggressively trying to get by him.
And Modov, just that, his fastest lap time is 0.2 quicker than Mies, but the last time around he could only go about 30 thousandths of a second quicker on that previous lap. So it's so tight between those guys, between Mies and Modov. But Mies is under a lot of pressure, but he is just not flinching at all. Also, I wonder, one thing that's probably in effect as well with Modov's lap times is he's getting the toe on the straight, and that's bound to be worth at least a 10th anyway, maybe more on the back straight. But let's see how close they are right now. Mies is really making him push, and that last time around, well, my time screen just decided to freeze, and actually Mies quicker that time around, just by a 10th.
See how the tyres are working underneath, well, underneath nothing, hidden away in the wheel arches, but nothing actually at the top of those wheel arches. It's just open skies for the tyres to breathe.
Yeah, it's an interesting development which started off, I think we first saw that on the Audi LMP1 cars, where I'm not entirely sure what the benefit of it is. I think it's something... it keeps the car from flipping, we're being told by our producer, which of course was a problem in the past at Le Mans. Unfortunately, basically Mercedes have never been back after their terrible incident of the car flipping. But so aerodynamic, I guess, the benefit, not tire cooling, but actually keeping the car, or the nose specifically, pushed into the ground.
6 minutes left. 3 laps to go when we cross the stripe and meets with that golden pit stop. Continuing to carry the lead he stole away from Modov, who does not seem to have anything in response right now. The gap opens to a 2nd for a moment. One more lapped car ahead, and that should be all of the lap traffic that they'll have to deal with. Hugo Galaz, that last little car in 26.
Well, let's hope they get past cleanly and they can have a clean fight to the end. But Mies pulling away again. 1 minute 46.8, 0.2 quicker than Modov that last time around. So I wonder if Modov is used up as... Oh, Mies runs wide though on the exit there of turn 1. That's going to slow him up.
Just noticed Byron Daly's dropped to a lap down as well. He's not on the racetrack, so he's had an issue, and not yet it comes up. So he's dropped out of the server. Internet catches him off guard, unfortunately. Curtails what was a strong run for him in this race.
Yeah, that's really, really poor luck for Byron Daly after another hard charge. Hopefully it'll come together for him next time out. And, well, it's certainly coming together for Rodrigo Mee. He's just played the Joker. That fuel saving made all the difference. You wouldn't think with a 60-minute sprint race, fuel saving would have made such a big difference, but it really, really has. As we see, what on earth is going on here? We're seeing Fishman in the middle of a big old punch up there, and he's had to do. He's dropped off the pace quite.
He's gone to pit road behind him. Christopher Richards just spun as well. That was Michael Overbay going through the middle of all of them and finding a lot of pace, but not quite able to get by Ted Lowendijk.
Yeah, let's see what happens here then. They're coming down the Ullman Straight. Fishman on the inside. What happens here? He's going slow on the inside. So, yeah, must have been coming to pit lane. And the other guys, they race through and side by side. And, oh, yeah, we've got a spinner in the background as well there too. So, lots. Christopher Richards, lots going on here in the closing minutes here at Sebring. And I suspect, Brian, that the tyres are going to be well past their best.
Yeah, that would have been a drive-through for Fishman for reaching 13 incidents, I would suspect. So, a race that started so well and slowly got worse and worse for him will be the tale of round number 2 for David Fishman. 1.1 seconds, the gap at the front. It'll be... Will it be 1 or 2 laps to go when we cross the line next time?
Ooh, good question. That's going to be very, very close. We'll see when they get up there as they come round the hairpin. And, oh, the Modov just a little bit wide there getting He's really pushing, you can tell, but Mees is really turning the screw now, just opening up that last couple of % of pace to make sure that Modov doesn't get the chance to get close, because of course he doesn't want to give Modov the opportunity to get into the really strong drafting range, because that is when Modov will really be able to reel him in quite quickly. So at the moment, Mee is really pushing on hard, and he's opened up that gap on the live timing to 1.2. I think this is going to be a really quick lap.
Doing a stellar job. They got 6 seconds in hand over third place Quero as well. A little bit of his spin. He was running from third a bit closer. Looks like we're going to have 2 laps to go when we cross the line here. Lap times of 1:47. There's still 2 minutes 15 on the clock.
Yep, 2 to go. 2 to go. So Barney will be preparing the white flag, but not ready to wave it just yet. In fact, I was commentating at my local circuit, Knock Hill, Ryan, because it was happened in front of the leaders. So must have been.
Was the flagman wearing a skirt as well?
No, too cold for that.
Too cold. I've always wondered if you still wear your skirt when it's winter. So, although it's always winter in Scotland, isn't it?
Yeah, you need some new material, Ryan. You really do. But maybe by next week you'll have some more up your sleeve for that. So you see, Rodrigo Mee is 1.3 seconds ahead right now. There was absolutely nothing to separate them last time around, just 30,000ths of a second separating this pair, but Mee's doing what he needs to do. They will get the white flag next time around, and then, well, it's going to take a mistake from Rodrigo Mees, I would say, at this stage.
Last lap pressure, though, can be very overwhelming at the front of the field. So, as we come through Sunset Bend, Rodrigo Mees will see the white flag for 1 more lap here at Sebring. He has got a 1.2 second advantage over Karmodov. In fact, 1.3 as we head towards turn 1. So, can he hold on? Can he keep this last lap mistake-free?
I would say yes, but you just never know around the bumps and lumps of Sebring. But just keeping that car really nice and smooth, just hits the apex perfectly there, heading out of turn 5 and then around Gurney Bend, which is really just one big long drag down towards the hairpin for the final time. Hard on those carbon brakes, turning in beautifully. And Rodrigo Mies looks like he's going to be on the way to his second win of the season, unless, barring a mistake, looks like he is going to be solidifying his lead at the top of the championship.
Another drive-through for Rubala at this time, so that's going to bring an end to his top 10 run. In fact, he might struggle to still be scored there if he gets that drive-through on the final lap of the race. Not quite sure he's supposed to serve that. As Rodrigo Meets comes... Oh, he just served it, so that's why he's back in 12th. Not bad, though. Only lost 2 spots from that.
So down they go, down the Ullman Straight for the last time. Modov just about, just agonisingly close, picking up little slithers of draft range, but it's not going to be enough as Mies comes round Sunset for the final time.
Out of the last corner, Rodrigo Meets. Stellar strategy and a stellar drive. Meets picks up the win at Sebring. Karl Modov comes home second, 8 tenths away in the end, but not close enough. P3 going to go to Mauricio Cuero.
This is the settling for 7th place right now between McGrath, Holland, and McDonald. Who is going to hold it? Looks like McGrath is going to do it in the Pure Sims. Delara gets back on the gas, and he does. He's just going to edge out David Holland by a whisker in the 25 machine, with McDonald not too far behind as well.
Here's the battle for P15. Steve Gaiori. Looks like he's probably going to be just a little bit too far back to make this move on Enzo Montechinos. Montechinos. Gaiori, though, started a good race. Started this on for 23rd, so he's going to finish off with +8. He's got Villandia behind, coming under a lot of pressure from Ted Lowendijk, who gets to run out of the last corner to the line. Oh, Villandia just fends off Lowendijk's late charge by 0.03 of a second. We're going to go to a break here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Stay with us, because on the other side of this, coming back to your full results and interviews for the PRL LMP2 series from Sebring. Welcome back to the Global SimRacing Channel's coverage of the Precision Racing League LMP2 series. This is how round 2 has concluded at Sebring. A 0.8 of a second win for Rodrigo Meat over Karl Modov. Mauricio Cuero comes home in third. Lucas Vasigalupo picks up P4 ahead of Paulo Munoz in fifth. The late spin will be disappointing for him, given he could have been on the podium. Nathan Lewis, we worrying what could have been as well, started from pole but finishes 6th. Chris McGrath picks up 7th ahead of David Holland, who recovers nicely from a lap 1 spin to pick up 8th. David McDonald 9th, and Michel Ferraris finishes in 10th.
11th place was Sean Romig, who only beat Nicholas Rubelar and Mark McDonald. 14th is the 666 of Horacio Qualquin. 15th was Enzo Montechinos. 16th, Steve Goori. 17th, Cecil Bagai. 18th, Sean Belandia, followed by Ted Lowendick and Christopher Richards.
21st goes to Rodrigo Munoz, Michael Overbay 22nd, and Joshua Daniels 23rd. They were the last cars on the lead lap. Then our cars a lap down. Hugo Galaz, who had a late spin there. David Fisher in 25th. That drive-through really ruined his race. Kenny Rodriguez 26th. David Cristelli, Rodrigo Improda, Sean DeHamel, and William Martins de Silvia top 30. The rest of the field were all retirements. Byron Daly, Stephen Verratti, Christian Isa, Pablo Valenzuela Uribe, and Ignacio Rodriguez Fredes, and Andreas Espinoza. Let's have a chat then to our race winner, Rodrigo Meat, who walks away with a fantastic win after a pit stop cycle that, well, it didn't just work in your favor. It was absolutely excellent. Congratulations, Rodrigo. That's a good win for you today.
Yeah, hello guys. Yeah, it was very, very hard race, starting from 5th place, and with a good strategy, we could finish first. I never expect to get out of boxes in front of Carl, So I was really surprised, and like 2 laps after getting out of boxes, I just realized that my fuel was not enough, so I started to lift and coast again and really push the car to its limits on the braking zones. I almost lost it like 3 or 4 times. So yeah, it was really, I had really good fun. I'm very happy about the win.
Okay, congratulations again with that win. Now, what was the difference with that pit stop? You were 5 seconds quicker than Modov. Were you saving fuel on the first part, or was it just a case of, I don't know, you stopped in your box better?
Yeah, I was literally saving fuel from the beginning. So I think that made the difference. And pushing the car to its limits on the braking at the pit stop. I thought that I had penalization in a moment, so it was a moment that I was scared. But yeah, I think that was the lift and coasting that really helped me out to get. I really saved like 5 liters, something like that. So it's a lot on this car with the speed that it charges fuel. So yeah, again, very happy for that. I don't really expect to get out on front of Molov in the outlap of boxes, but it happened, and my man was just only on the first place from that moment to the end.
Hey, well, getting the lead on pit road was a fantastic idea on a track where overtaking seemed to be quite difficult. Who are the people and the sponsors you want to give a shout out to and thank for helping you get there today?
Yeah, I want to say thanks to my family, to my mom, my dad, my brothers that were watching me, to the team, to Punto CL, to my teammates Mauricio, Nicolás, Horacio, and thank you guys for broadcasting this. It's an amazing job.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo, and congratulations once again on a race well driven.
Thank you, guys. See you.
So yeah, so that was Rodrigo Meets, who picks up the win at the end of the 1 hour at Sebring. Next up, Peter Mackay is standing by with Karl Modov.
Karl Modov, welcome to the GSRC commentary box. Well, it was close there. You chased Rodrigo all the way to the end, but just came up short. Tell us about your race today.
What's up, guys? Yeah, it was a pretty good race. I love Sebring. It's a great track, and I felt pretty strong after I got by Nathan. Was able to build up a bit of a lead there, but I took a little bit too much fuel, and that paid the price for that. Once Rodrigo came out the pits in front of me there at the end, these cars produce so much aero that it's kind of hard to follow. New in the race, when the tires are fresh, you have a little more room to kind of work with, but when the tires are old, following someone through some of these high-speed corners, especially the ones coming on the straight here, are just super tricky. So great job to him to be able to save fuel to get out in front. Yeah, we just got some stuff to figure out. Me and David still with the fuel mileage, and but yeah, super competitive. Glad to be here back on the podium. It's been a couple seasons, I think, since I've been around you guys. So glad to be here.
Well, we're delighted to have a chat. And of course, this, as you mentioned, this Dallara P217 is brand new to everyone. Everyone's still getting their head around it, how much fuel it uses and how it handles. There's no greater place than to test the suspension than at Sebring, and it's of course so bumpy at Sebring. What are you guys have been doing to try and get the car running a little bit more smoothly at some of the bumpy tracks like here at Sebring and also at Road Atlanta as well?
This and a little bit of that, very specific answers. But neither of us are super good with the setups. I would say David's good with the F3 stuff, and I'm used to the GTE stuff. But it's still kind of just a little bit of trial and error trying to figure it out. This week, both of us were pretty busy, so we ended up running the VRS Racing School setup, which was really nice this week. It had good pace throughout the race and seemed to handle the bumps really well. So that worked out good. But yeah, we need to do a little bit more in-house development to find out how to get this thing to rotate and stay stable on the bumps, but it's all part of it, part of learning. The other guys are doing a really good job right now, so that makes you want to keep coming back and putting in the work, and also makes that first win when we get it, it's going to be a little more satisfying.
Absolutely. Well, we'll look forward to seeing that, and hopefully we'll get to chat to you again in the commentary box very soon. Now, while you're live here on the Global SimRacing Channel, who would you like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to you guys, the announcers, PRL, all the organizers, and then Move Up Lynchburg, Race Factory, Driven Texas, and Delta Sport. Thanks to everybody, and thanks to all my family and friends for tuning in and watching.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words. Go and enjoy that second place, Karl, and hopefully we'll speak to you again next week.
Hopefully, take care.
Well, that was Karl Modov, who picked up the second place. And now we're going to have a chat to Mauricio Cuero, who came home in P3. It was a fantastic drive. Picked up 5 spots in the race. How did your race pan out from your perspective?
Well, hi guys, I'm going to be translating for Mauricio tonight. Mauro, preguntan, dicen que ganaste 5 posiciones, que se vio como una muy buena carrera tuya, que cómo se vio desde tu perspectiva.
Buenas noches a todos. La verdad es que para mí no estoy al 100% contento. Bueno, debería estarlo por estar en tercera posición a este nivel tan grande, pero la verdad es que tenía quizá un poco más de expectativa. Trabajé mucho durante la semana, como dijeron mis compañeros, para estar bien adelante hay que hacer su propio setup, y es lo que realmente hice, pero por un problema que tuve en clasificación partí muy atrás, y eso la verdad es que a este nivel condiciona mucho la carrera, la verdad. Y sí, estoy contento por la posición 3, pero pensaba que podía quizás obtener mejor resultado.
Well, first of all, he says, good night, guys. Well, he's not happy. He should be, but he's not happy at all. He says he put a ton of work into the setup this week. So he's kind of bummed out that it didn't play out the way he wanted to, especially because he started quite far back in quali because of an issue he had with another car. But yeah, he's gonna keep working stronger for the next one.
Hey, well, there's nothing wrong with picking up a podium at such a difficult track over the course of an hour as well. Who are the people that he wants to give a shout out to and the sponsors he wants to thank?
Mauro preguntan que a qué sponsors quiere darle las gracias, a qué persona.
Primero que nada, dar las gracias a mis padres que siempre me están apoyando, siempre ven completadas todas las carreras, me apoyan siempre. Y después tenemos al equipo.cl, que es mi equipo y siempre está apoyando, a Fox Limitada, a Top Speed y todos juegos que siempre son los que nos apoyan carrera a carrera.
Well, he wants to thank his parents and the .cl racing team with all the sponsors, Fox Limitada, Top Speed, and Todo Juegos.
Hey, well, thank you very much, Mauricio, on joining us here in the booth, and a fantastic drive. Thank you, Paulo Munoz, for jumping in here as well and translating for him. Hopefully we get to talk to you again next time out. But I think, Peter, that brings us to the end of our show here tonight at Sebring International Raceway. So I think, well, we've got to give another thank you to Simsa and ButtKicker for their continued support of this series and making all of this possible. Big thank you to everyone at Precision Racing League as well for actually organising and bringing these series to life. Big thanks as well to the companies that provide all of the software and hardware for our broadcast, as well as Judah provides all the music. You can see the screen on how to get a hold of all of them. And big thank you to Joe and Peter with me in the booth today. You can find out more about GSRC, including all upcoming races, at globalsimracingchannel.com on the internet and on Facebook, or on Twitter at GSR Channel and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to hit subscribe to us on YouTube so you don't miss a moment of the action. We've got some upcoming races on your screen at the moment, so make sure you check them out and mark them down in your calendar. But from all of us here in the booth for tonight, thanks for joining us, and until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.